Welcome to the Redbeard Embodiment Podcast. I am your host, Alex Green, and I'm on a mission to bring the power of embodiment to people all around the world. In this podcast, we explore how embodiment practices, trauma healing, and knowledge about the human nervous system can help us find our ground, discover new sources of meaning, and create connection in an ever-changing world. The deepest change is embodied change.
All right. I'm so honored to be sitting here with Trini Zegers. And Trini is in Santiago, Chile, and I'm here in Boulder, Colorado, as I normally am. And Trini, I don't know how long I've known you, but at least 3 years, I think. We met, was it 2020 or 2021?
I think it was the end of 2020.
Okay. So first, in the height of the pandemic, and we had started the TRE certification program online, and you must have been in one of the earliest online classes for us.
Yeah, I think I was on your third cohort or something like that.
Okay. Anyway, so Trini is has been with us all that time. She is a TRE provider. She has her own background in other kinds of body-oriented work. She's done guiding. She's done veterinary work. I'm going to let you talk about your background a little bit. But these days, she is a TRE provider, as well as she's a mentor for our Redbeard TRE certification program, which is awesome. So every time we do an online cohort, Trini and I get to tune in together and help the students with that. So anyway, Trini, I'm so happy to sit down and have a conversation with you today.
Yeah, me too. Very excited.
Awesome. Good. Well, let's just talk a little bit about kind of before we met and before you came to TRE. What was your just talk a little bit about the parts of your history that led you towards this work.
Okay. Well, first of all, I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would be on this life path.
Okay.
It's been a surprise, and it's not something that I planned, but I worked about 10 years as an outdoor tour guide,
Right.
hiking in Patagonia and in the desert of Atacama.
Right.
And during that time, I started having a lot of accidents, because we were there all the time, and sometimes probability gets to you, statistics. And
Right.
in those accidents, I started experiencing chronic pain. And I was very frustrated because my body was I was working with my body.
Yeah.
And I thought I was connected with my body, but it connected in a way like, yeah, do this and do that, and not really listening to my body.
Sure.
But during that time, I was subjecting my body to a lot of stress.
Mm-hmm.
I was hiking about 100, 150 kilometers per week.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know in miles. I would say,
Probably at least 100. Yeah.
yeah. And horse riding, yeah, probably half of that per week.
Okay.
And there were days about 10, 12 hours of work.
Mm-hmm.
And during that time, with pain, I had to come back and exercise for another 2 hours just to keep the pain at bay. So I was very tired
Yeah.
and very bored with that situation. And I have done physiotherapy and I have done many things, and the pain was there, like watching my back. If I laid my guard down, it will like come back. And so I was looking for other ways to manage the pain. And the first thing that started coming to me was meditation, and try to relate to pain in a different way. So I started meditating, and it was very hard at the beginning. I couldn't meditate for a very long. It was like a monkey bag inside my body. So there was a lot of noise and I didn't want to get in touch with that. But anyway, I started getting more and more in touch with that and with my body, and seeing that I could relax a little bit into pain. But it was still like relaxing into pain, accepting the pain that it was there, but I wanted the pain to be away.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, and
um, yeah.
pausing for a moment. So, and I mean, it certainly sounds like you know, the physical activity was intensive by most measures. But so, what kind of pain is it? Like back pain or like nerve pain? What was the kind of pain you were dealing with?
Um, well, there were different pains. It was a mixture. I had a couple, the were the least severe were sometimes in my hips, or because yeah, some back pain, and I had a couple of sprained ankles, and I also had an accident where I flew through the gust of wind, blew me off a ledge, and I fell like 5 meters. Um,
Right.
it was incredible at that moment. I was like in the air thinking like, what is happening? But anyway, there I torn my gluteus major
Okay.
muscle, about a third of it.
Okay.
So that created a lot of imbalance in my whole body. And I was capable of coping with it because I was doing a lot of work. But
Mhm.
anyway, there were a lot of coping mechanisms in my body. And then I fractured my fifth vertebrae in my neck.
Uh,
So I also started having a lot of, we call it torticolis, where you cannot move.
right.
And
Alice. Yep. Yep.
yeah,
Hmm.
so that I think in my neck, it was more of a nerve pain probably after the accident.
Right.
Uh, So all those pains together in a mixture were like, where do I start? What is hurting today? Let's
Right.
see how the day unfolds.
Yeah.
So yeah, um, I was dealing with all those stuff, and I passed through the Atacama Desert to visit a couple of friends, and there I met a friend told me like, you have to get a massage with this guy. He's amazing. So okay, I've tried everything.
Mhm.
I had tried massage before, but never like this.
Mhm.
So I booked an hour with him, and there comes this. Uh, he's not tall, like I would say, like he gets to this height of me.
Mhm.
Um, kind
Mhm.
of hippie, older, like 60 something. He comes in his bike to my place,
Mhm.
and he starts, and the first thing is like looking at me like, yeah, walk. And like, okay, what is this? Not very sure what it was. And then he started working, and immediately it was like, oh, I have never gotten a massage like this before. This is different.
Uh-huh.
And the session lasted 2 hours. Like he was like, I'm not getting out of here until I detangle this. Um,
Right.
he worked
When you,
very like, hmm?
yeah. Well, when you say it was not like another massage, like was it sort of a like deeper, or what was different about it?
It was deeper. It wasn't something, it required a lot of concentration from my part because I had to be actively relaxing and kind of, because it was painful.
Mm.
And also, like in the middle, he would keep me like, okay, now stand up and walk a little bit and tell me, what are you feeling? And then he would like look at me and he was like, yeah, there's an imbalance there in the shapes.
Mm.
So I was really intrigued by his way of working.
I see.
And and after that massage, I was like, whoa, I have a new body. And not only I have a new body, I during that session I had an emotional release with a flashback.
Mm.
um, so I was like, oh, this is completely different.
Yeah.
So I was very intrigued, and I wanted to learn more because it was the first time that I felt that layers of the accidents have come off.
I
Like I
see.
was just not maintaining my body, but actually
Making,
getting rid,
yeah,
yeah,
reclaiming. Yeah, yeah.
reclaiming my body. So I I started being curious about his history, and he he's a very interesting person. And he was the first one that started leading me towards this path of embodiment and body work and stuff like that.
Okay.
So after I did a couple of more massage with him, and I said like I want to learn. He was like, yeah, but I don't teach like in traditional way.
Right, right.
Um, so he told me, okay, you can come, but you will have to travel with me.
Mm,
Okay, because he was in a stage of his life that he wanted to get rid of all his possessions. He had sold his house, his stuff, and
mm,
he was now traveling in his way up north.
mm,
So we were in Chile, he was aiming to Peru, and he was like, if you want to learn, you have to come wherever I am.
mm.
And I'm camping because I'm done with houses, I'm done with taking stuff. I started with a motorcycle, now I'm in a bicycle because I don't want complicated stuff.
Right. Wow. Yeah.
And yeah, he is a photographer and an artist. He was a professor in one of Chile's universities for watercolor for many years.
Mm,
And he started experiencing chronic pain himself.
mm,
And
mm,
he found a book at a certain point, and he started about self-massage. And he started become obsessed with studying anatomy and all that. And he learned intuitively, and then he took a couple of courses here and there. And after that, he was like, okay, I'm going to fix my own pain.
mm.
And then people started asking for him to do massage. And then one thing led to the other. By the time that I met him, he had been like 15 years doing massage. And before he came into a place, everyone was like, oh, Sergio is coming. You have to book an hour with him. And so when I went to learn with him, it was very interesting because it was about 3 weeks that I
Mm,
had to travel to Peru, and he
mm,
had me people watching a lot of the time. And because he was an artist, his people watching would be like, okay, where do you think the movement is stuck? Where do you think there's not balance?
mm.
Look at how that body flows, and but very in a like an artistic way, not in like the traditional anatomy.
Analytical way. Yeah.
Yeah, and well, he had me training, doing massage, work first on him and then other people,
Mm,
and a lot on dogs. Part of the training was to
right.
go and find stray dogs and massage them because he was like, a dog is never going to let you do anything that they don't think it's serving them. And it's going to be very clear if it's hurting. And if it's serving them, they will allow you to touch them. And if it's not serving them, they will leave or bite you.
Right. 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 Interesting.
So it was very interesting, very, very interesting. And then I started becoming, after that, I was like, okay, mind blown about his way of working. And he
Right.
was also very fast. Like he said, like if you encounter with a person, because I live with this traveling. I do some watercolor, but mostly now I do massage.
Mm,
And if you want to get to be known and people look at you, you have to make a really big impact in the first 5 minutes. So
mm,
you have to locate the 3 core points and go at them, and then from that to make
mm,
the person feel that there's a change. So
mm.
he was very much into trying to locate the origin, and that led me into a rabbit hole of restudying anatomy,
Okay.
which was beautiful
Yeah.
because I had studied a lot of anatomy in veterinary, but it was four-legged anatomy. Yeah,
Well, 'cause I was going to ask you. So this is all after your veterinary work. So you
yeah.
did veterinary school, then you were guiding, and then you had all this chronic pain, and then that led you into this body work.
Yeah, I studied veterinary, but as soon as I got out of university and got my degree, I started guiding. I did molecular genetics in university, and the thesis was very long. I was 3 years in the lab, and by the time that I went out, I was like, I'm done. I'm going to the mountains.
Yeah,
Goodbye.
yeah, yeah,
So, so yeah, after a long time guiding and then chronic pain, and this kind of, although I did work with animals in the time that I was guiding, mostly as a volunteer while traveling and on other projects, helping some friends. I didn't do veterinary work per se. I did more a lot of animal watching and behavioral analysis and stuff like that. Um, so getting back to the body, this time the human body, and
right.
connecting again with animals was like, oh, this is anatomy, but in a different way.
Sure.
This also is health, but in a different way. And now I'm connecting with humans, two-legged anatomy. It was very, very interesting. So that was my first encounter with embodiment
Got it.
through this sort of mentor
Wonderful.
that I had.
I love that story. I mean, I knew you did some kind of body work, but I had never heard how that came about. So it's very fun to hear about that. So after you kind of did your sort of apprenticeship with him, traveled with him, and worked in this way, then what? Did you start working on people where you lived, or were you still guiding, or both, or?
Both. I was still guiding and I started working with some people. Um, but my aim was to work more with animals. But the pandemic came. So I was going to go to a horse massage training
Yeah,
because I love horses and I thought I can be outdoors and work with horses and get to massage them and all will be beautiful.
right.
But you cannot do a training of those online.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so the pandemic came and I was like, what do I do now? Like, I cannot guide and I cannot massage people. And I also need to do something about my body because although I know much better how to relate to pain now and how to help myself
right.
when some pains come,
Mm,
I want to get deeper into this.
yeah,
um, I want to get deeper into the body and I want to understand better like why sometimes we get stuck in cycles of pain that go beyond what is happening like in the muscles or in the tissues that had to do more like with the stories and experiences during that pain.
sure.
Um, so that's when a friend of mine told me about TRE.
Mm,
Uh, and he didn't know what TRE was, but he worked with some people that did TRE, and he said, like, I think it's going to be of some interest for you.
okay.
So, yeah, I made pandemic times. There was only online things, and I followed a video, and I think like, whoa, this feels so natural. It's weird, but I like it.
Right.
And I really think it's helping me. After the video, after practicing, I felt like, ooh, I feel lighter. And then how my body did it, like I wasn't trying to do something. It was
Right.
my body doing something that
So
I was kind of observing.
yeah, yeah. Take a second, Trini. I mean, I think most listeners probably because TRE comes up so frequently in the podcast, I think most people know what it is. But just in case, if there's somebody listening where maybe they've heard it, but they don't know what it is, just describe it for a second. What the practice is.
Well, the practice is beautifully simple. It's a sequence of exercises that connects us with a mechanism that all mammals have, that is a shaking mechanism that through that shaking releases stress, tension in your body, and trauma, and allows the nervous system to integrate these experiences and recalibrate. So yeah,
So what it
it
looks
comes by. Hmm?
Yeah. And so you're like, when you said you tried it, what you're saying is you went through the process and you found the neurogenic tremor reflex and you had that shaking process happening and it felt very natural for you. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying? Something felt really natural.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so it felt very natural. It felt that something released, and it felt fun.
Okay.
It felt fun, and I didn't have to try that hard. Like I wasn't really, I was just required to be attentive and
Mm,
present,
right.
but I wasn't thinking about what am I going to do, and it was like watching something magical unfold before my eyes.
Mm,
So those were the first sessions that I did, just following the video.
mm,
And then I got into a short workshop,
okay.
4 sessions workshop
Mm,
online here in Chile.
okay.
And that had a little bit of theory and for practice sessions. And I was even more in love with the process and all that it meant.
Right.
And that started making the tremor mechanisms move more through my body.
I see.
And by then I was like, okay, I want to facilitate this. This is so fun. I want to see more people doing this. I think the world will be better if everybody tremors. Like, if everybody gets these experiences, people will be happier and will communicate better. Like, this is important. And that's how I found Redbird. At that moment, I looked for online trainings
Mm,
and I through the webpage, the TRE webpage, and I found Redbird, and well, the
rest.
rest is history. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I mean, one thing that I always love when you're assisting with the trainings is, your enthusiasm for the trem. I mean, I think anybody who likes tremoring does it because of things that you describe. But I really like the way that your own curiosity is infectious about the tremor mechanism. But you said something, as you practiced more, you learned that it was able to move through your body a little bit differently. And when I'm working with beginners, which is frequently, I'm often trying to sort of convey that, hey, this is a starting point, but this neurogenic tremoring is a practice that can evolve over time. It can deepen, it can broaden. It's not something that's just the same all the time, and that much of the value comes from exploring it in a sustained way over time and seeing what comes as a result of that. And I think of you as somebody who's just really followed your own journey with a lot of interest, your own tremoring journey. So I wonder if you could just share a little bit about that process, sort of like what the starting point was like. Were there some phases that were interesting for you? Just those, so that somebody who's maybe newer in their tremoring, who's listening, can just hear a little bit about what that evolution can look like.
Okay. Yeah. Um, well, it began in my the tremors, the shaking mechanism can look very different from person to person. For me, it began in my legs, and especially in my thighs, in my inner thighs, like a sort of movement, but it wasn't much movement in my whole body. It was just in my legs, but even that, at that point, I didn't felt a physical release of my pain, but
Mhm.
I did feel some changes in my capability to focus and how relaxed I was, and like I felt lighter after ending the practice.
Okay.
So those were the first things that called my attention with TRE. I wasn't really yet into the point that I could see that it could create changes in my experience with chronic pain.
Right.
Although it had diminished a lot, there was still there.
Okay.
Um, but then when I did this short workshop, the tremors started moving up through my body. And I found it so fun because it was not only in my shoulders, but even in my jaw and like my faces. I was like, oh, this is super, super weird, but fun. Weird in a fun way. Like I never thought that they could all move, but it was like a symphony, you know, every different instruments playing at different times. So I started becoming more impressed about what the body could do to release itself if we allowed it.
Yeah.
And from there, when I started doing the training with you and Ellen, something that really some like another big step occurred in my practice. It deepened not only because I had more sessions, but because I also, I'm sure, it's not a belief, I'm sure that when there's more people in the process, the field around it, it's kind of
container, being with a group. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Being with a group and having something watch whatever process you're going through, I think it's super powerful and it enhances what is happening. So that allowed for a deeper experience of the tremors, and also like being very attentive in watching my own process, starting the journal. And when I started the journal, that's when things started getting like even wilder. I thought it was already like super fun, but I couldn't have foreseen how it unfolded. So at the beginning, there are some, of course, we have to self-regulate with TRE because unlike animals that do it constantly, we haven't done it most of our lives. We have repressed it, and then when we start unleashing it, we have to be careful. It's not like you jump into a horse for the first time and gallop through whatever terrain you find. You first need to learn how to stop the horse, how to go to the sides, how to steer it, and all that, and communicate with the animal. I believe that with TRE is more or less the same. So I think it's nice to start slowly, so you have time to like test your own boundaries and see where it feels safe. But for me, it felt at the beginning always natural, always like there was something that I was curious about, and I felt a deep trust in the mechanism. And with that trust, I think I gave enough space for things to unfold in a way that maybe well, everybody's experience is different, but watching so many animals through my life, I have seen these shakes, and there was something in my brain that said like, okay, this is what they were doing. You know, if you just trust it completely, you will be safe. Of course, you can stop to take a break and whatever, but if you trust the process, you'll be safe. So through that, while doing my own journaling, there was one big session. It was 1 week of sessions, I would say, that I started having like, there was something unsettling in me. Like, I was like, there's something that this tremor mechanism wants to do. Like, it was the first time that it was almost like if it was a different entity that it was living inside of me that now was expressing that it had some wishes and some agenda. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that you had an agenda. Like, but most of the times it doesn't have an agenda, but I started having this sensation that it really wanted something to get done.
Yeah.
And this something was to work on my neck that first time.
Okay.
And I started having these very interesting sessions by myself, were longer than we usually do in a TRE session. And during 1 week, it progressively started working with my neck. And there I had to it put all my trust to test, because I had to fully trust to allow it, because I thought, like, if I don't trust, I need to stop, but I cannot practice not trusting. Because if I practice not trusting, like, I can get injured because these are not soft movements. This is not something gentle. This is like doing my head like crack from one side, and I could hear everything rearrange and crack, crack, crack in my neck, and then to the other side and stuff like that.
You had that history of your fifth cervical, right? The
Yeah.
fracture. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I could feel during this week, because it was not one session, it was weeks, that 1 week that I tremor almost every day, and some days twice a day. And some of those sessions were more than an hour, that I took several breaks at like every 5 minutes, because it was like, oh, this is crazy. But anyway, I would continue because I feel like it's not done. It really wants this to get done. And I was like negotiating with the tremor, like, okay, I need to rest. I need to do some other stuff. I need to integrate what we are doing. But I promise, like, we will continue. I will be here. And it was crazy, beautiful. And after each session, I could feel like crusts out of my muscles, and my muscle memory were kind of peeled off. Again, like with the first massage that I had with Sergio, this was like, okay, now this is really working deeper. And after those 5 days, I think I never again, until a couple of weeks ago, had any more neck pain. So it was something like from the past. The tremor mechanism could easily kind of maintain me free from pain.
Until a few weeks ago?
Until a few weeks ago, yeah.
Something has come back recently?
Well, I think it was more emotional. I think coming back to Santiago and having to find, coming back to many family dynamics and stuff for Christmas, my mother's birthday, and other stuff. Like, I think it resurfaced in another way.
I see.
But I was able to manage because now I have tools.
Right.
Yeah,
Wow.
but so yeah, the tremor mechanism kind of gave me those experiences that were a journey on itself.
Right.
And from that, it became a period of vacation for the tremors. Like, it was all soft, nice, and very gentle, and like not doing anything big. And for a couple of months, until a point I was like, oh, I'm getting bored. Like, because this, I think it's important, those months where it's not doing much, much in an apparent way.
Right.
But after having these huge experiences, there was a part of me that was like, when are we going to have another one of those?
Right.
But anyway, from then to now, what I feel is like peeling off layers, taking off layers. And the first time I encounters something big, it kind of crashes like a battering ram. It's trying to get that place to move, trying to break that whatever stiffness is there, and trying to move life again into that place of the body. And once it does, it starts working with the crumbles of whatever was left and rearranging it in a beautifully organized structure. And then when it's done with that, it's like it integrates it with the rest of the body. That's how I felt it with me.
Yeah.
And then it's like navigating, integrating, going around the body until it finds another one, and then it goes like again. So it's these cycles for me, like that can take about 4 or 5 months, depending on how frequently I've been practicing. into something big again comes up. But the next big things weren't so physical anymore. The next big things were other more, sometimes more emotional, or some experiences that it didn't took like a week or many sessions, but it felt as big as well. But since then, it's like those waves, those cycles, since it works in my body.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like having a friend, because I don't think, I know it's my body, but it's more than just my body. It has its own intelligence and its own agenda. It's like, oh, hello.
That's wonderful. Oh my God. Well, that's great. I'm glad. And there's probably more, but I love how there's the physical, there's the psycho-emotional, there's stages where something very obviously is happening or being negotiated, and then there's periods where it's more under the surface or more integrative. But I love that description of those phases. And so for you, so you, I guess, began your practice in about 2020, and now we're just at the cusp of 2024. Are you sort of are you a daily practicer? Are there weeks you do it a lot? Are there weeks you do it a little? How do you decide how much tremoring to do these days?
Um, I go with the flow of my body.
Yeah.
There are periods when I'm more stressed, I need it more.
Mm.
And when I kind of forget about practicing, I feel like maybe I need it less. So I'm flexible with that.
Right.
If I forgot about it, it's probably because I'm not so much in need.
Right.
And even if I forget, for if there's been a week without practicing, I start then actively looking for an occasion to tremor, but I don't force it. It's maybe like once a week until I find more need. And there are periods where I can tremor 3 times a day.
Yeah.
So I just honor my own rhythms and my own needs.
Beautiful. Very cool. Well, so what has it been like for you? So, you've had a rich ongoing personal journey, and then, you're a few years in, maybe you're doing a bunch of other things. I don't think you're guiding anymore, but by appearances on your wonderful Instagram account, it sure looks like you're doing a lot of TRE with folks, or maybe that it's front and center. What's that been like for you to be bringing this to others? Who are you working with? How has that felt for you personally to be doing so much facilitation?
Um, it's been beautiful.
Yeah.
Uh, First of all, I get excited every time that when I see like this flame kind of spark into, like the tremor begin for the first time in someone, it's like, yes. um, so just being able to share that, it's very inspiring for me. And also, I've been keeping notes of all the sessions that I've had. And well, actually, now that we are at the end of the year, it's fun because I review them all this year. Like, well, I've done that the other years, but there weren't as many as this year.
Hmm.
But reviewing all those process, I feel it's like very enriching for me,
Mm.
because I've learned with every facilitation. And also, there's a part of me that also heals with every facilitation.
Mm.
Um, Even though I'm not tremoring, there are some things that resonate in me about those movements and stuff. And through this journey, I'm I've kept meditating, sometimes more, sometimes less, but the last year and a half, a lot more.
Mm.
And a new kind of intuition has arisen in my body. And when I'm facilitating, besides being there for the person I'm facilitating, there are some sensations in my body that I can that feel, and I believe that there's actually something resonating with both of us, that it's not just that person, it's something that together we are creating, and the benefit is mostly for that person, but it's also for me. And although I make a point of starting each session grounded, most of the sessions I leave them more grounded than I thought that oh, I feel even more present now. So I think there's something beautiful about the space that it creates in the session. And yeah, I've been mostly facilitating this year to women. Most of them have been going through stress or panic attacks, some more emotional things. And it's amazing to see how fast it works in those cases.
Right.
So that's what this year's been about mainly.
Yeah.
But I believe that for the next year, I have other plans.
Yeah. Any plans you can share, or is it a secret right now?
No. I will continue facilitating, but during this year, we had the TRE Ibero-American Encounter in San Pedro Atacama, which was also one of the places where I used to live. And it was beautiful. And I did guide.
Pause for a second, because this was the next thing I wanted to ask you about. So just to make sure it's clear, so the Ibero-American TRE community is kind of like it's like a group within the global TRE community. There's the Ibero-American community is mostly connected by Spanish language, but if I understand correctly, so it includes. I mean, it's not just South America; it's Spain. So, is that correct? Is that sort of how it's
Yeah,
defined? Yeah,
it's all the Spanish-speaking providers
right.
that we gather together,
And you
and it's
together for like was it a retreat or a training seminar, or in the north part of Chile? What did you call that gathering?
we call it an encounter.
Okay.
It was an 8-day gathering. It was long, and it was very beautiful and unlike anything else that I had experienced. I had no idea how it was going to unfold and what I was going to, but it was really amazing. This is the third one that the Ibero-American community has done. They happen every 2 years. And because it's a big thing, people travel from different parts of the America or Spain to this encounter. They make it like, okay, let's going to make this worth it. So it's many days.
Right.
And usually in different countries. The first one was in Colombia, the second one was in Spain, this year was in Chile, the next one is in Spain again, but every 2 years. So during those 6 days, we had a lot of activities. We were all facilitators. There were some trainers as well.
Yeah.
But it's something that makes the Ibero-American community, I think that's a characteristic of the community, is that it feels like very circular in structure. There's, even though there are people that have been facilitating for many, many years, there's like a circularity that feels very comfortable. And besides this encounter, there's an online encounter the first Monday of each month, where we not only share news about what's everybody doing, but also we share some practices like ongoing education, or someone facilitates for the whole group online.
Right.
We get to see a share of what other people are using TRE for.
Right.
So it's very nourishing. And there's also a WhatsApp group, and people are like, it's not one of those WhatsApps where it's crowded, but people do ask good questions, and everyone kind of comes up with their opinion and reflection. So I think the community itself, it's like very knitted together.
I see.
And besides that, it has a lot of programs,
Mm.
volunteer programs,
Mm.
and there's like a weekly facilitations online that are like when you pay, you don't need, you can volunteer
Donation or something.
donations, yeah.
Yeah.
Donations, and those donations go to then bring TRE to places that are in need,
Right.
maybe after a catastrophe, or like in the jails in Colombia, or things like that are all paid with that. So
I
it's
see.
very active in like promoting that type of work and sharing those experiences and all that. But in this encounter, we got all together, and we had all these mixtures of dynamics, including art and working, like drawing and stuff like that, and also exploring different ways of facilitating or being facilitated.
Hmm.
So we explored our limits, and that was very interesting, like walking around the room and trying to find your spot and where were you more comfortable, but from a silent point, like with all these people moving around, and then tremoring from that and seeing if your limits were changing or not after
Right.
tremoring.
Right.
There was another one that was particularly interesting. That was, for example, what happens when you're being facilitated, and there was one facilitated and one facilitating, and the one that was facilitating had to like, okay, what happens if they turn your back on you, or what happens if they start walking around you, and
Mm.
like exploring all those sensations in your body in real time. Like sometimes those things we have in theory that maybe not that nice, but like getting to experience them was very nourishing.
And get feedback kind of as well.
All the feedback was at the end. Most of these things were encouraged to be on silence. Like just be with your experience and then write it down, and then at the end, like you can give feedback, but it's like it was more for like yourself.
Sure. I see.
And also what happened for the person facilitating, like when you turn your back, and like how do you feel, like are you able to be connected or not?
Right.
When you're walking around, how do you feel?
Yeah.
Like exploring different levels, like if you're facilitating and someone is higher at the same level or lower, or
Yeah.
yeah. So a lot of dynamics like that,
Mm.
exploring space, exploring limits, exploring where we felt more comfortable with ourselves,
Mm.
exploring silence. Um, so yeah, very nourishing, a lot of tremoring.
Right.
And we also did some hikes in nature,
Mm.
and we tremored in nature as well.
Mm.
And so it was beautiful. It was super nourishing. It was very interesting. And
Right.
I think in the community, well, they're maybe not official shamans, but you can feel that many people get there in like, you feel that energetic presence that they get there, that like it's more, there's a lot more on that person than just the physical body. There's like a presence coming in.
Mm.
And yeah, so it was very beautiful.
Mm.
And during the outdoor hikes, I led two of the three hikes,
Mhm.
and I remembered how great it felt to be guiding.
Yeah.
because it was also part of myself for 10 years. And I left it because I was tired a little bit of
Right.
talking, like being nice all day, and also of my pain.
Mm.
But it's not that I didn't, I love nature and I love to share nature with people.
Mm.
And I also like a lot geology, astronomy,
Mhm.
bird watching, plants, etc. So talking about ecosystems, being able to share, it was like, okay, let me show you my garden. Like, because there were places that that I lived and walked a lot. So it was like, yeah, come, my friends, let me show you this plant. I've seen it like grow or whatever. Like it's like that excitement, like a child excitement almost, like when I'm guiding. Um, so that felt very beautiful. And I realized, like, yeah, I want to go back to guiding, but this time probably different. I don't want to guide anymore in luxury hotels,
Right.
which I was doing before. And
Yeah.
um, I want to maybe guide more connection. Uh, so my plans for New Year, this New Year, are starting to make um, travel, trekking and TRE,
Yep.
with walking in the forest and maybe some meditations and moments in silence. And because I have all the knowledge of tourism and I have all the safety issues, like I'm certified for rescue and stuff like that,
Right.
and I know how the things move, like
Right.
what things to organize, what people to ask for.
Right.
So I realized that I want to do at least uh, four four encounters of trekking with TRE
Trekking with.
during the year.
Oh my gosh! Wow. Sign me up,
Yeah,
Trini. You can save a spot for me. I,
I think you will love it
sounds.
because I also Chile. It's my country. Well, I live here. It's not mine, but it's where I live, and I lived in the two most touristic places of Chile, which are the Atacama Desert and the southern Patagonia, Chilean Patagonia.
Sure.
And they were my house, they were my backyard
Right.
for 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I'm going to bring those two things together, and people love to come to Patagonia. So if you want to come to Patagonia or Atacama, like, yeah, I'm planning to do those things.
I'm signing up. I already
Yeah.
know what I'm doing in 2024. That's so wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Wow. No, that sounds. I mean, it sounds like a completely natural fit, um, based on all your experience. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm super excited for that. And of course, continue facilitating 101 and maybe some workshops, but yeah, bring nature back into my
I
practice.
love it. I love it. Well, it's funny. In about was it about a month ago? Uh, I did a podcast with my friend Jenny Hayes, and she's in Wisconsin, and she and I went through the somatic experiencing training together. But so for her, and I asked her, and it's been 6 or 7 years since we finished our training, and I said, well, where are you heading with this? And for her, it's bringing it into ecotherapy, and she's a psychotherapist. So it's and I have so much resonance with that idea of taking embodiment or nervous system practices into natural environments, because, as you say, this is uh, most people who like TRE and stay with it, they can't always describe it all that clearly. Well, what is it that's benefiting them? But I'd say almost everybody will say there's just something natural about it. There's something just sort of or you use the word innate intelligence to your body, and I find that that's we have our interior neurobiology, but we also have the exterior. You're sure there's human beings, and we co-regulate with one another the ways that you've been talking about. But we're also in rhythm, or in biological relationship with more than that, with the world, with nature, and so to me, there's something so that matches about embodiment in general, that if we become really curious about our own nervous system, almost inevitably, I'd say we start to notice how is it that our nervous system is in relationship to the outside world. And there's a difference when you're in a city, or one city versus another, or you're in a desert landscape, or a rainforest landscape, or a mountainous climate. There's a different feeling. Everybody knows that, but those of us who've become interested in embodiment, I think maybe we become a little bit more interested in those changes that occur. So anyway, the reason I sort of just said this, oh my gosh, I have to do one of these trips with you, is because no, the idea of tremoring in the larger container of a natural environment that you're learning about, that you're spending time immersed in, to me just seems like a complete natural use of tremoring.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And even when I was guiding many years before, I could feel sometimes the mountain was trying to tell me something, that it was like, okay, I don't believe in these things. Now I do, but it was like, but it's for sure telling me something. And and there were a couple of times that actually I think that communication sort of saved my life.
Mm.
For example, the time that the gust of wind blew me off,
Mhm.
I was thinking about dying. I was so tired. I was depressed. I didn't have time for myself, and I was stamping a smile every day.
Mm.
So I was not in my best days.
Mm.
And I felt at that moment, after I fell, I was like completely
Right.
shook up.
Right.
And I was super lucky
Yeah.
because with my backpack, the backpack itself protected me from getting impaled in a tree.
I see.
So, but anyway, when I was at the floor, a couple of minutes passed, and I decided I'm not going to move until I know for sure
Mhm.
that I don't have a fracture.
Right.
After I regained consciousness, of course, I was like, okay, I'm not moving. I don't care what happens. I'm not moving.
Yeah.
And then people came to assist me, and they realized I didn't have anything fractured, and it was much easier for me to come out walking there than having to bring me on a table and etc. Like out. It's
Yeah.
not easy to do a rescue in
Yeah.
the wilderness.
Yeah.
So I realized, okay, I can walk. This is not comfortable, but I can walk. I have enough adrenaline to walk now.
Sure. Sure.
Um, but at that point, I'm so happy I'm alive. I'm sure that this mountain like told me like, you silly girl, you don't want to die. I'm going to show you like this is not what you want. Like, wake up. And I really feel that that fall, even though it tore a muscle and whatever,
Yeah.
it brought me back to life. And I feel like it wasn't some random accident. It was at the precise moment, as most of my accidents were at that precise moment. Um, and I feel that interaction with for me it was nature. I was sure that the mountain was like telling me like, you don't want to die.
Mm.
Like, this is your path, continue alive.
Okay.
You love life. So and then tremoring now in nature, it feels, as you said, like that bigger containment.
Mm.
um, when I'm in nature tremoring, I feel like that trust that I usually have on the tremoring process is kind of even bigger. Like, it's not only me that is trusting,
Yeah.
like I have a whole support team of microorganisms and big, well, even animals that are maybe around, and
Right.
vegetation, trees.
Yeah.
like all connected there, helping me to ground myself. Literally, I'm on the ground,
Yeah.
and allowing me to also like move the energy and the flow through my body much faster because I'm connected, like I'm wired to the ground,
Right.
um, grounded in a very physical way.
Right. Right. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, for me, I have a lot of resonance with the, sort of the when I think about, it's true in my meditation experience, but it comes up with tremoring as well. Is that I really resonate with sort of like a Taoistic, like microcosm macrocosm model, and this idea that the microcosm is your biology, but the macrocosm is bigger, right? It's the universe, or it's I guess the macrocosm is as far as you can sense or feel that you are in connection with. But part of what I hear you speaking to is this idea, and it's true when we're tremoring with other people or facilitating for other people, or like the example of the bigger container of nature. But it's this idea of connecting, or in Zen we would say becoming one with the other, or becoming one with the universe, or becoming one with the microorganisms and everything that's around you. But the sense that that you can use tremoring as a way to consciously engage that microcosm macrocosm relationship is exactly how I experience it too. It's just one of the pieces that for me anyway makes tremoring not just a physical practice. It's not just not simply a stress release. For me, it's about connection. It's about connection inside
Mm.
and connection externally as well. But anyway, just hearing the way you're talking about it, I feel a lot of resonance with how you're describing it.
Yeah, beautiful. I love how you describe it as well. It's about connecting. Yeah, because we connect to landscapes in our body
Mm,
that we didn't know. Maybe we had neglected, or we didn't travel to those areas for a while.
right.
And then you start like, whoa, this was here. Interesting. Oh, I had no idea. Like, and then you connect with the world outside and not the physical world. And even if we start looking being very pragmatical, but nature, they keep discovering that it's all connected. Like
Right.
beyond, we can talk about meditation and macrocosmos and energy and stuff.
Right.
And yeah, that's been for a long time. There are traditions
Mm,
that have seen the world that way.
right.
But even now, science is kind of like, okay, this mycelium web that connects everything.
Communication of trees through the
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. No, completely. I completely agree. Yeah.
And sometimes even there's a forest that can be just one individual of one tree
One tree.
that through,
Yep.
yeah, that sometimes through the roots they take out new shoots,
Yep.
and it's just genetically it's the same tree, but
Right.
it's connected through the roots, and it looks like different trees. So it's that illusion
Mm,
of different things.
mm.
But then when you start getting deeper, it's just one organism,
A system.
and the same with fungi and all the interactions that happen,
Yeah.
and how water gets transported. It gets like all a connection. Like if forest was untouched from the coast to inland, through the roots, it helps bring water when there's a drought
Mm,
in the inner parts of a forest. So through kilometers, like
right.
200 kilometers or more.
Right.
Uh, so it's all the web of life in this world is connected,
Yeah.
and we think we are separated,
Mm.
but it's an illusion. And even today in our world, we think like we're so independent, and it's something that in our society we say like, or yes, I live alone in my apartment and I'm completely independent.
Right.
Well, no, we are as dependent as we've ever been. Like now we are connected through this computer, through the internet. I have no idea how it functions. I couldn't build a computer. Just to be having this conversation, we are dependent on how many people that created these technologies, produced it.
Right.
And then you go to the supermarket and buy your food. And even in the physical level, I believe that we think we are disconnected, but really we're all very interdependent. And today more than ever
Right.
for humans.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Well, Trini, I don't want to take more time than we can, but this has been wonderfully rich, and I really appreciate your just hearing this whole journey for you.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love sharing it with you as well.
Great.
And thanks for having me here.
Wonderful. We'll put all your information here, because your Instagram is very active, and website, and wherever you'll be announcing these, your TRE treks, I'll want to include that all in the show notes as well, so people can come join you. All right, wonderful. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Redbeard Embodiment Podcast. To learn more, visit us at redbeardsomatictherapy.com or send me an email at alex@redbeardsomatictherapy.com. If today's conversation resonated with you, help spread the word by subscribing and sharing with others. Hope to see you next time.